If you want to know how history can be forgotten, just look at popular culture, where a song or a movie or a television program can become incredibly popular and important to one generation and then wholly unrecognized by the next. The first week in October represents the anniversary of the first airing of a television show that for many of you will bring back a flood of memories, but for others, well, leave you completely befuddled. But I was one of millions of children whose childhood weekdays almost always started with the words, "Good morning, Captain." It is history that deserves to be remembered.
Robert James Keeshan was born June 17, 1927, on Long Island. The son of an Irish immigrant who was an executive with a grocery company, in his 1996 autobiography, he describes an idyllic childhood growing up in the New York City suburb of Forest Hills. His life, however, changed dramatically when his mother died suddenly when he was just 15. Such a loss could pull a young man off the rails, but he credited a school guidance counselor named Gertrude Farley for demanding that he find his way once again.
He graduated in 1945 and enlisted in the service in the last year of the Second World War, and this has led to one of the most enduring myths about Bob Keeshan. There's a popularly shared web story that says that actor Lee Marvin said during an episode of The Tonight Show that his life was saved during the Battle of Iwo Jima by Bob Keeshan. It's a very persistent story. I came upon it several times while doing research for this episode, despite the fact that it is entirely untrue. But it does have a kernel of truth, and that is that both Bob Keeshan and Lee Marvin were Marines.
Marvin, 3 years older than Keeshan, served with the 4th Marine Division and participated in the assaults on Inuetik and Saipan, where he was wounded, but not at Iwo Jima. Keeshan enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve in the summer of 1945 and was training for the invasion of the home islands when atomic weapons brought an end to the war, and he never saw combat. He did, however, pay credit to his brief service. In his autobiography entitled Good Morning, Captain, 50 Wonderful Years with Bob Keeshan, TV's Captain Kangaroo, he said, "Paris Island is not a place of fond memory, but it is a place of positive memories. I would never trade my Marine Corps experience for anything. The training, the character building are second to none. To this day, I call upon that training, and it has never failed me." Keeshan had worked part-time as a page at NBC Radio and returned to the job after the war while attending college at night. And at NBC, he got a start in early television on the iconic show, Howdy Doody. The parenting website Hub Pages explains that Keeshan was a bottom-rung assistant to Buffalo Bob on the Howdy Doody show, originally Puppet Playhouse, entertaining the Peanut Gallery and keeping them orderly. This would lead to an iconic role, as Hub Pages continues. He became Clarabelle the Clown when a network exec told him to create a clown costume so it would not accidentally appear on screen in street clothes. He didn't speak on screen because he would have had to been paid more to do so. Keeshan and much of the cast were laid off in 1952, possibly in a dispute over pay. While some references suggest that he and Buffalo Bob Smith didn't get along, Keeshan didn't mention it when commenting on Smith in a 1987 history of the Howdy Doody show. "Bob Smith is my father in the business. I give him 100% credit for my success because I would not be here today if I hadn't learned all the technical aspects of the medium from him. I put what he taught me to work on Captain Kangaroo, and we ran for 30 years.
3 different actors played Clarabelle the Clown over the run of the Howdy Doody show, but Bob Keeshan's was by far the most recognized of those, and in 1990 he was inducted into the Clown Hall of Fame. And if his entry into show business was somewhat unorthodox, it is perhaps even more surprising that he remained in show business after leaving the Howdy Doody show. The website Famous Clowns notes that many of his colleagues thought that this was the end of Bob Keeshan's foray into television. After all, he couldn't sing or play an instrument. He was untrained and really not qualified as an entertainer.
But stay he did, again playing a clown on a noontime children's program broadcast in New York City. IMDb explains, sitting on a park bench with a Cocker Spaniel by his side, Corny the Clown gently talked to the kids between cartoons. The show ran from 1953 to 1955. It was in 1954, however, that Keeshan had another opportunity as well. He wanted to do a weekday children's show. The website TV Party explains that he got the chance to do so. The programming director at Channel 7, Adrian Rodian, told him, "You've been asking the station for a year to try and do a weekday morning kids TV show. Well, you've got your chance. Have the pilot ready by Monday morning." Thus, Keeshan and director Jack Miller developed the show over a single weekend. It was called Tinker's Workshop. By Monday, TV Party explains, Tinker's Workshop was open for business. The show was characteristic of Keeshan's philosophy towards children programming. TV Party says of it, kids learned and were entertained by the kindly little toy maker who used the playthings and his knowledge of a child's love of life and simple play to get them started in life. The show was notable in that Keeshan, despite being just 27 years old, played an older character. TV Party notes that, without time to have a wig made, he used gray hairspray.
The show, set in a workshop in a Swiss village, was only shown locally in New York City, but in that city it started beating NBC's Today Show and CBS's Morning Show in the ratings, and that drew the attention of network executives.
CBS had been struggling to find success with a morning children's show. The website School Days explains, the heads of CBS TV had auditioned a few kids' TV show concepts with former jazz band vocalist and one-time Miami, Florida Kids TV MC Merv Griffin, folk singer, musician, songwriter, and storyteller Frank Luther, and comedy performer and singer Jerry Colonna. None of their series pilots worked out. Keeshan based his new character on the relationship between children and their grandparents, a relationship that Keeshan says he explored originally with the Tinker character, calling Tinker the father of Captain Kangaroo.
The kangaroo part came from the oversized pockets on the lower part of his bright red coat that were so large that resembled a pouch on a kangaroo. And those pockets became so iconic that the lower pockets on the United States Air Force dress uniform became affectionately known as Captain Kangaroo Pockets.
Well, some authors have suggested that the captain part was because the character was originally supposed to be the captain of the tour guides of the treasure house. Keeshan simply calls it an alliterative promotion. Keeshan's new show first aired October 3rd, 1955. That same day, another children's classic, The Mickey Mouse Club, debuted on rival network ABC. CBS marketed Keeshan's new creation to parents. Good news for parents and for children. Starting tomorrow at 8, CBS Television presents the gentlest children's show on the air as the kindly Captain Kangaroo recreates the private wonderland of childhood in his treasure house. It is a live and enthralling hour-long program. Keeshan described the new show's opening. In the autumn of 1955, Captain Kangaroo made his debut. In stentorian tones, the announcer said, "Boys and girls, CBS Television presents Captain Kangaroo and his treasure house." The music started, the doors to the house opened, and an elderly man, jingling a ring of keys, made his way to the large desk and hung the keys on a nail. Wearing a trademark bowl haircut wig and sideburns, Hub Pages says of the character, Captain Kangaroo attempted to reestablish a role for grandparents in the lives of children. For those kids that had no grandparents, he became the sea captain grandfather, a little like Captain January in an old Shirley Temple film. Mr. Keeshan used to say that as he aged, he just needed increasingly less makeup than on his first show as the captain. Keeshan said of the character, Captain Kangaroo treats children as intelligent human beings and never talks down to them. He is not afraid to ask them to think, and he believes that they have good taste. He likes people in general, and children in particular. Blogger Pamela Blame recalled her experience in a 2004 post. It was Captain Kangaroo who unlocked the treasure house door, and we would come running to watch when we heard the theme song begin on our television sets. Just as small children wait to see the surprise Daddy had for us in his pockets when he comes home, in the same way we waited expectantly to see what the grandfatherly Captain Kangaroo would extract from his oversized marsupial jacket that he wore. He brought out such outlandish things as large mirrors, bunches of bananas, and even music stands. We all held our breath apprehensively as he absentmindedly laid a bunch of carrots on the counter because the greedy bunny rabbit was known to snatch any carrots away in a split second, and we were never disappointed. In addition to Keeshan, the show featured a veteran musician, children's show host, and fellow Marine named Hugh Lumpy Branham. Keeshan wrote Branham's character, Mr. Green Jeans, was intended to be the Mr. Outside to Keeshan's Mr. Inside. Keeshan said of Branham, Lumpy created the character because he played himself with all his caring and warmth. The children at home sensed immediately. A handyman for the treasure house, Mr. Green Jeans would often bring animals for the kids to see. He had a genuine love for the earth and all its creatures, great and small, Keeshan wrote. Branham also played a number of other characters on the show. Professor, Greeno the Clown, the new old folk singer, and Mr. Bainter the Painter.
Another rumor that was widely spread about the show was that musician Frank Zappa was Hugh Branham, Mr. Green Jeans' son. It's not really clear where that one started, but no, he isn't.
The pair were joined by a number of characters brought to life by talented puppeteer Gus Allegretti, including regulars Bunny Rabbit, who always managed to steal carrots, Dancing Bear, Grandfather Clock, and Mr. Moose, who had a penchant for tricking the captain into standing under a cascade of falling ping-pong balls. Keeshan notes that the original idea was to use golf balls, to which he said, "No, "I'm able to write these words today," he wrote, because of the change to ping pong balls. The show also often featured important performers of the day. This was not, Keeshan argues, because children would recognize them, nor that he was marketing the show to adults. Rather, he wrote, "Our famous guests from so many fields were invited for one reason. It is my belief that children deserve the best performance possible, and these artists were supreme in performing their art. Simple as that." The show originally carried a grueling schedule. Since the show was live, it had to be performed twice, once at 8 a.m. Eastern and then a second time at 8 a.m. Central. There was just a 40-second gap in between the two shows to reset and start again. It wasn't until 1959 that videotape allowed them to tape the first show to play it back for the Midwest audience. The show was unique. For example, Keeshan didn't use a live audience like Howdy Doody, as Keeshan saw the medium of television as a way to create a direct connection to children. "I believe that television was too intimate to allow a studio audience to interrupt my relationship with the child at home." Keeshan had strong feelings about the show environment, limiting ads, not allowing the characters to advertise for products. CBS promised the show 20 minutes of animation daily from its Terry Toons studio, purchased by CBS in 1955, but Keeshan felt that the show's offer displayed too much violence. While acceptable to theatrical audiences of another era, he wrote, "they were unsuitable, in our opinion, for our audience of young people." CBS was very understanding and agreed to allow us to produce entirely new animation at Terry Toons. Not everyone agreed with Keeshan's philosophy. In 1995, the Spokane, Washington Spokesman Review quoted Jennings Bryant, director of the Institute for Communications Research at the University of Alabama. When Captain Kangaroo first appeared, there was a lot of criticism. It was said that children needed television that made them face the harsh realities of life. Keeshan's response was, "That's what everybody else is doing." Rather, Keeshan created a place where children could feel safe. The Green Valley News notes television was a relatively new addition to most American homes. There had never been a generation of kids exposed to home video entertainment before, so the series was designed to give kids a gentle alternative to the frenetic nature of most children's shows of the day, of which Howdy Doody was considered to be one of the worst offenders. Watching an episode of the Captain Kangaroo show from the early 1960s, one was taken in by the slow pace and overall gentle nature of the show. Hub Pages opined, "For abused children, Captain Kangaroo was the only spot in the day besides school time in which these kids could receive a kind word." The Hampden Roads Daily Press opined, ahead of his time in recognizing the importance of early learning, Keeshan's Captain built confidence and intellectual development in children who were having too much fun to notice. But the Allentown Morning Call writes, "He unlocked much more than fun and surprises for pint-sized fans. From that house came a trove of timeless messages. That children are precious and deserving of our respect. That quality children's television is important. That reading is essential. That time is the most valuable thing parents can give to their children." Keeshan noted that we read more than 5,000 books on the show, many of them multiple times. The show would eventually be seen by more than 200 million children, parents, and grandparents. It ran for nearly 30 years on CBS and then another 6 years on PBS. It was, in its time, the longest-running children's television show in history. The show earned its share of accolades. The Encyclopedia of World Biography writes, he won 6 Emmy Awards and 3 Peabody Awards. He was inducted into the Clown Hall of Fame and the National Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. The American Medical Association awarded him a Distinguished Service Award, and he received a National Education Award. He earned a Kennedy Center honor in 1987.
But the show's real legacy is in the millions of children who, like me, started our workdays with the words, "Good morning, Captain. Hello, and how do you do?" I really can't say how much impact the Captain Kangaroo had on me, but it's not lost on the history guy that the show included a hat tree where you could play pretend by trying on different hats.
Writing in his blog, Thoughts on Success, Music and Media, musician Steve Bryant gives a powerful testimony to the meaning of the show. "For me, Captain Kangaroo was more than just a television host. When my third-grade teacher asked everyone in class to write an essay about their fathers, I sat in my seat for a few minutes and finally began to cry. Mrs. Miller, an excellent educator, quietly ushered me into the hall to determine the cause of my tears. 'My father died when I was 2 years old,' I told her. 'I don't remember anything about him. I have nothing to write about.' 'You can have the best essay in class,' she said. 'If you could pick anybody in the whole world to be your father, who would you choose? Once you decide who that person is, write your report about him.' I didn't hesitate. I looked right at her and I said, 'Captain Kangaroo.'"
After the show's run, Bob Keeshan remained a tireless advocate for many children's causes and testified before Congress about the effects of violence on television. He said that he and his good friend Fred Rogers would often commiserate over what they both thought was the sorry state of children's programming. Odd for a television icon, he would usually give advice to parents to not let TV babysit their children. He famously said, "One of the big secrets to finding time is not to watch television." Bob Keeshan passed away in 2004, beloved by millions but already unrecognized to new generations of children. But his legacy remains. Famous Chicago broadcaster John Calloway said in the Daily Press, "Ultimately, he was about decency and dignity in the midst of all that silliness. I hope he'll represent something to future programmers of children's television. The children have changed, but what has not changed is their needs. And it is always good to remember the advice that he signed off with for nearly 9,000 episodes over nearly 40 years. Whatever you do, have a great day." I hope you enjoyed this episode of The History Guy. Check out our community on thehistoryguyguild.locals.com, our webpage at thehistoryguy.com, and our merchandise at teespring.com, or book a special message from The History Guy on Cameo. And if you'd like more episodes on forgotten history, all you have to do is subscribe.